Verse 29. Disturbing emotions are destroyed by insight grounded in calm abiding. Knowing this, cultivate meditative concentration that purely transcends the four formless absorptions. This is the way of a bodhisattva. So this verse is about the union of the practices known as shamatha and vipassana, calm abiding, and special insight meditations. These are foundation practices for practitioners in this tradition, the Tibetan tradition. I call them relaxing and recognizing. Because myself, my own particular kind of mind, when I hear the word calm abiding, I want to jump out of my skin. Really, we're all in this together. I'm just going to be very candid at every moment. The idea that I could train myself to calmly abide seemed counterintuitive to me, honestly, and it's not been ever my strongest practice, but Rinpoche does say very clearly this is the foundation practice. And even some practice of calm abiding, or shamatha as it's known, in Tibetan the word is shine, and I've heard the description of the meaning of that word in a way that I find so beautiful, really exquisite. It's a candle burning and a glass globe is around it, so it's not shaken by the wind. Not a globe covered at the top, but I think that's beautiful. So the calmness is not enforced. It is simply we learn how to protect the stable mind that is naturally illuminated. So it's a practice that often uses the breath. Are you all familiar with shamatha, calm abiding practice? Anybody not? Okay, so I'll say a little bit then. It's a practice that of the kind that we describe as meditation with support, relying upon a support. And in calm abiding practice, the support can be an object, for example, a statue, or an image. It can be a phrase from teaching. It can be an object in the mind, or it can be an external object. It can be the breath. Very often we start with the breath because if we're alive enough to receive the teaching, we're breathing. And that's available with us until the last breath. And we've talked about that for the practitioner on the Bodhisattva path, the last breath is the offering with gladness and gratitude of this life for the benefit of all. So the out breath is the last breath. But in the shamatha practice, unless you're on the verge of death, there will be another breath coming in. And the way that I was given shamatha, I like very much. The initial practice relying on the breath is to, as the breath goes out, you rest your attention lightly on the breath, on the out breath, ignoring the in breath. Rest the attention lightly on the out breath, as lightly as a feather touching a bubble. And you don't pay any attention to the in breath. It's not needed. You don't take that breath anyway. It's not something you do or do not do. Your body takes the in breath for you. unless you have a compromised respiratory function, as some of us do. It's not an effort to breathe in. The body does that for you, so you don't have to pay attention to that. The out-breath, however, we tend to be very parsimonious with, for some strange reason. We tend to hold on to the breath. How grasping is subtle and all permeating, right? And so we don't fully breathe out. And if we don't fully breathe out, despite the body's best efforts, we're not going to fully breathe in. And then we're breathing shallowly. And the shallow breath is characteristic of anxiety and fear and pain. The breath that's really about here, unless it goes down into the belly, it's not a full breath. So this practice of shamatha, this calm abiding practice relying on the breath as support, allows us to learn how to do one of the most important Dharma practices that you will ever be given: let go. Just let go. So let's practice this for a moment together. And you'll find in every Dharma book there'll be description of shamatha practice. I want to just give us a little opportunity to experience this directly together. So let's just sit for a moment, breathing normally, no special breathing at all, just breathing normally. No yogic breathing, no thought I'm breathing or I'm not breathing, just, here you sit. So just sit. Now, as we're sitting in this unforced way, when it's time for the breath to leave the body, just notice. And notice all the way to the end of the out-breath. Just be aware of the out-breath all the way till it ends. When the out-breath ends, note how the body naturally takes the in-breath. Doesn't need to be prompted by you. If the out-breath is complete, the in-breath follows. If the out-breath is not complete, you might be wanting to grasp for the in-breath. That will be how you know that you haven't breathed fully out. Just give me an indicator if you're aware that you're holding on to the breath. Yeah? Some awareness of that it's not complete? Yeah. Okay, so now we're going to do, we're going to use a helper, and it's the sound. Tongue at the roof of the mouth is just making us. So now just breathe in 3 times just normally, just the way you always breathe. Don't even pay attention to the breath, just sit here. Now, when you're ready, you'll make the sounds on the out-breath, and you won't stop the out-breath until you have no more breath left to make that sound with. You'll continue, and you'll push a little beyond where you think you've breathed completely out. You'll keep making that sound. So it could sound, I'll just demonstrate it so you can see how long that might go. I had to push at the end. And for this training, that's fine. I mean, you're not going to do that in normal life most of the time, but for this training, it's fine to push at the end, because we want to really experience what it's like to let go. To let go of that which we rely on to be alive. Let go even of that and see what happens, okay? So let's do 3 rounds using this sound. And it's not going to be the same for each of us, so we'll do it at each of us at our own pace, okay? So when those 3 breaths are completed, you'll notice that then in the interval before you do another round of that, perhaps you'll notice with your ordinary breathing, you'll notice it's a little different. Once the body experiences what it's like fully to expel the breath and fully to take it in again, the body remembers. That's how we do it. It's our mind that interferes with our breathing, unless there's an actual illness involved, okay? And this is a very powerful support for calm abiding practice, for the mind resting in serenity, in that wonderful image of the candle protected by the glass. The body that is forcing its own breathing and wanting to hold on to it is preoccupied. It's so subtle, we're not even aware of it, but there's a preoccupation. And when we release that preoccupation, as we release the breath, the body is free to calmly abide in itself, and the mind has a calm resting place. I know the language is not familiar to us, as practitioners, but it's a good way to describe it. We're freeing the body and the mind to calmly co-abide. So that's one form of using a support for the calm abiding practice. Another is an image or an object. Please don't use a crystal for this purpose. A crystal is a magnifier, an amplifier. And our minds are still somewhat obscured. And thoughts come and go, some of which are not those we would like to amplify. Yes? So a crystal is not a suitable object for a support for this practice. You can have crystal friend in another way, but not for this. Okay, but an image, say, choose from among the sublime images. But those up there are not ideal because then the eyes are elevated. You want the eyes to be not above the horizon. This is an open-eyed practice. Again, not open staring, not above the horizon, but from the horizon on down, and many times you'll hear it given gazing down the nose, so that you're like this. It's about maybe 8 feet in front of you or something like that, yeah? So it's alert, attentive, awake, and then it's a practice of just being with a conscious attention to the being process, which is sitting, breathing, gazing. And what do we do with the intrusive thoughts, the little monkeys and squirrels that are running around in the mind? Well, we love them, so we train them mind gently to deal with them. Rinpoche once said this absolutely astonishing thing, well, one of many. He said, "Your thoughts are sentient beings. If you love them, you will liberate them all." Isn't that just incomprehensible to the conventional mind? But we don't have a conventional mind anymore. We're on the Bodhisattva path. So we're transcending convention here, and we're going to take that quite seriously. So when the thoughts arise, or the arisings, proliferate in the mind, emotions roil, memories disturb, fantasies of the future obtrude, whatever it may be that's going on in the ever-active mind, the brain-based mind, that is, think of it as an errant beloved. And you just gently touch, and with the conscious attention, you just invite the mind back to the breath or the contemplation of the object or whatever it may be. You don't go chasing after it to grab it, the thought. It's going to get away from you anyway because it's going to dissolve on its own if you don't do something with it. You don't yank at it. You don't punish it. You don't punish yourself for having it. It's like maybe a new puppy. Quick before it pees on my shoes, But just invite it back. Invite the mind back. Leave the thought in the corner, but invite the mind back. It's a real inviting, gentle. Okay? And then the mind settles again. So whatever the support is that you're using, when you stray from your gentle and easy, effortless reliance on that support, when you strayed from that, you just gently come back. And you will stray. It's not if. You're straying right now as we speak. There's an American woman who wrote a book about post-divorce epiphany on the Pacific Crest Trail. She changed her name to, I don't know what her last name was. She changed it to Strayed. Her name's now Cheryl Strayed. Mind strays. Okay, I know that wasn't really relevant, but I thought it was kind of cute. So this is working with an object for support of the mind. So the mind has something to attend to be aware of, and is using that as a support for its own gradual relaxation. Yes? When you're not chasing after something or trying to corral something, you can relax. The pony's going around in the corral. I don't have to be there to do anything about it. Yeah? So that's the relaxing. And then we habituate that practice. And you don't have to, it can't always be a sitting practice, or it's not going to be serviceable to you in your life. But this practice, it's very helpful, and I would say very crucial to practice on the cushion, so to speak. You know, the cushion may be a chair, or maybe something else. But in other words, a formal practice, a demarcated time period, not too long. Maybe 3 10-minute sessions or something like that maximum, or 20 minutes maximum, 2 10-minute, or break it up smaller. So again, the training in a regular, consistent way with manageable periods of time is really supportive when we're starting a new practice. We don't want to over-exercise the mind and the body. We want to have it be within the bounds of what we can tolerate, so we can do it, and so that when we come back to it, we come back to it joyfully. Oh yeah, I get to go sit. Now, I've been known to say, oh yeah, I get to go sit. But that's okay. Still say, oh yeah, I get to, right? I get to have that privilege of sitting. There are countless beings. We are very few in number, even among human beings, who have the time and leisure and the good fortunes, the endowments, to just sit. It's very rare, very, very rare. Most people are out really trying to survive. So when you have the chance to just sit, embrace that really gladly, and offer it. Always remember to offer your efforts for the benefit of all. Bodhicitta is the beginning point always for every practice or every action. Okay? So the gradual acclimatization, shall we say, to this practice of relaxing, this is a relaxing practice. We rest our efforts to control the breath. We rest our efforts to control the gaze. We rest our efforts to control our mind. We rest. This is a resting, relaxing practice. And in the state of resting, we calmly abide. So it has elements of doing, but the more significant elements become the not doing. And that's true of all of our disciplines. So the way then that it also becomes a union with vipassana practice is that when the mind becomes able to have that stability in a relaxed, alert, attentive way, you then reinvigorate. This is a description that isn't well, I'll just give it the way I give it. You reinvigorate. You wake up within that state. You give a little shake to the mind. You say, okay, this is very lovely, this relaxing. Now I want to recognize the mind that is experiencing this in this life. I want to recognize my mind. So you look directly then, in that calm state, you look directly at the mind. The mind that is experiencing, the mind that is aware of its breathing, the mind that is relaxed in its body. And you look right at it. And there it is. Et voila. Because there isn't anything else. All appearances are our own mind. So when you look at the mind, you're seeing the mind. It may look like your Sangha mates, May look like that's what you're looking at, but you're seeing your mind. Remember? Open, empty, spacious, illumined. This is the no secret secret. So essence of Vipassana in union with shamatha is we just be and we just see. Think you can remember that as a pith instruction? Nobody ever attained ultimate awakening in a state of tension. Relaxation is the key to the E word, domain, enlightenment. Because it's just being. It's just being. Again, quoting our beloved Guru, the greatest effort you will ever have to make is to do nothing. So just being requires the effort to do nothing. Like, you don't hold the breath, you refrain from holding the breath. For a while at the beginning of the training, if you're using the breath as a support, I encourage you to practice this S sound so that you really experience the full letting go. And then you can let it go once you won't need that for forever. But you can always return to it when you do need it, like in times of tension, when the breath contracts, the whole body contracts, then that can really be a helper for you, for your practice. 3 rounds of that and you're much more open and relaxed. And then within that state of open relaxation, you have the possibility of simply gazing within meaning not inside your head, but within the whole of which we are a part. I don't know how to put this into words really, but it's as if we're gazing within everything. The withinness is what the point is here, that the gaze is, at first we experience it in our own body, because with that inward attention gaze that we're describing, there is a very spontaneous relaxation response. Did any of you experience that when we have doing this? Yeah, and that's your signal that you're really aligned there. And that inward attention, often people feel as if it's looking at the inside of their skull, because that's what we think when we think of gazing within. We're gazing within our container, but our container is inseparable from all physical matter even. And so we're looking within, we're looking into essence, yes? However that is experienced in a given moment, we're looking to the withinness. Looking to the withinness. I have never used that word before in my entire life. Somebody in this room wanted that. I don't know how that works, but I think I better disrobe here. It's getting warm. The relaxation and the willingness to activate the inward attention and to invigorate a bit allows a calm and precise attention, not tension, but attention to elements of experience, elements of consciousness, elements of vision or other sense impressions, which are part of the conditioned mind's experience, but that same attention, a vivified attention that is in a mind of relaxation and a body of relaxation, can directly see the mind's nature itself. Empty, open, luminous, expanse. And that's the union of shamatha and vipassana. Okay. I'm probably the last person in the world who should be explaining these two practices, but I did my best. And for now it will have to do. There are many others who have a much greater understanding of this practice over time, and how naturally practicing calm abiding together with special insight, calm abiding and vipassana and shamatha, how naturally those practices in union naturally open out into awareness. Naturally. Because they were never other than that to begin with. If this sounds theoretical to you, allow it to become real for you by practicing it. And there are many wonderful books in which the shamatha and vipassana practices are carefully and precisely explained, much more so than I've been able to do here. And there are many teachers, certainly in the Tibetan tradition. Khenpo would be an excellent person to ask for instruction in the union of shamatha and vipassana. And perhaps he would be good enough perhaps to do a day-long retreat for those who requested it, or day-long instruction just in how to do those practices and how to bring them into union. I think that would be a marvelous thing to ask him to do. And I think he would love to do that. He is that candle burning purely and stably within the glass protection. He is that. I would say he is truly an embodiment of that practice. I just experienced that when I'm with him. So those of you who can or want to, take advantage of his presence here. Everything's impermanent. We never know how long anybody's going to be around, but he's here now, and he's a pure burning candle. Okay? A little feedback from you. Some of you are practitioners of these two methods. For some of you it was new. Is there anything you want to say to me about the explanation and the suggestions? Something you can follow? Something you can explore, experiment with? And those of you who are more advanced practitioners in the sense not of attainment, realization, but having practiced these two for a bit, because it is foundation for some of you, I know already. Is this take on it useful for you, even though you've been already doing the practices for a while? Yeah? Good. And then use it. If it's useful, use it. If it's not, keep looking. Okay? But in any event, keep practicing whatever it is that you feel confident in. Practice what you feel certain of, and you will make amazing progress in the Dharma, even if you only have an hour a day available for it. Go from certainty to certainty to certainty. If you have doubts, ask your teacher. First ask yourself, then ask your teacher. Okay? Good. So take a few happy breaths. Did everybody get a little snack? No? Do you want some? Yeah. You can pass the tray around with the napkins. Yeah? This is our last day together for this time. So eat, drink, and be merry. Eat, drink, and be relaxed. Would somebody like to pass the blueberries around? Yeah, Tara, thank you. It's great to receive something directly from the hands of Tara. So here she comes. This is green Tara. Manam kadam esanchantam chedavadam devajidandan pajuchi Tuknalang dujan pajuchi Tuknalang forgetting the words Manam kadanyam pesam chentam chedavadam devajudandam pajuchi Dugnalang jijudan javajuchi Dugname pedavadam injavajuchi Yerin shagdan yidan jawe tanyamane pajuchi. Should we try that together? Doesn't matter whether you pronounce it. Oh, doesn't matter whether you know how to pronounce it. It's pronounced pretty much as you see it on the page, same way English is. Don't sing it with your mouth full. That's prohibited. Seriously. We don't combine mouth with food with chanting or reciting mantra. Thanks. I've got some here. Thank you very much. Manam gadanyam pesam chentam che dewadam devajudandam parjuchi Duknalang jijudam javarjuchi Duknal me pedewadam mindravarjuchi Nyering chakdan yidan drawe tangyom le parjuchi. It isn't a very light-hearted, joyous tune. Okay? So put that down because I want you to sing with us. Thank you. She put it in her pocket. No, she didn't put it right. So let's do it. I'd like to hear you. It doesn't matter what it sounds like. This is our Bodhisattva song. This is our Bodhisattva vow, our commitment. And it's just what it looks like on the page. Ma nam ka dang. Yes? Do you want to do it reciting it just once as syllables and then sing it together? Yes, okay. Ma nam ka dang nyam pe sem chen tam che de wa dang de we ju dang den par jur chik. Duk nal deng duk nal ji ju dang dro ar jur chik. Duk nal me pe de wa dang min dro ar jur chik. Nyering chag dang ni dang dro e tang yum lan e par jur chik. Ma nam ka dang nyam pe sam chen tam che de wa dang de we ju dang den par ju chi. Duk nal ji ju nan dro wa ju chi. Duk nal me pe de wa dang min dro wa ju chi. Nyering chag dang yi dan dra we tang nyom lan e par ju chi. Want to do it again? Okay. Is my voice too low? Okay. Ma nam ka dang nyam pe sam chen tam che de wa dang de we ju dang den par ju chi. Duk nal dang duk nal ji ju dang dra wa ju chi. Duk nal me pe de wa dang min dra wa ju chi. Nyering chag dang yi dang dra we tang nyom lan e par ju chi. Now this is on the recording that's on YouTube, so you can listen to it until it becomes natural for you. Yeah. It reminds me of how in some of the Vajrayana practices of the wrathful deities, the Tibetan tunes are like mother's milk. So tender, so melodious, so lyrical, and you're calling on these wrathful energies to destroy causes of suffering. And it's like, how does the Vajra Kilaya go? Om Benza Kilaya Sarva Bignan. You know, oh come, destroyer. It's great. Play with the Dharma. Play. Cultivate that childlike innocence of, oh, this is pretty. You know, not a category that's closing things off, but opening it up to experience multi-levels simultaneously, yes? I'm calling on the wrathful protector. Oh, it's like the mother rescuing the child from danger, or pushing away that which wants to harm the child. Its tenderness activated, its compassion charged with power. Yay. That's Americanish for Emma Ho. Okay. Verse 30. It's the last of the 6 paramitas. Wisdom. Without wisdom, the other 5 perfections alone are not enough to reach complete enlightenment. Thus, combined with skillful means, develop the wisdom that does not distinguish among the 3 spheres. This is the way of a bodhisattva. The other 5 perfections, the ones we've already looked at, 25 through 29, are relative reality practices relying on conceptuality. Yes? The practice on wisdom is non-conceptual. It's non-dual. Wisdom is non-conceptual and non-dual. And the phrase combined with skillful means is very, very significant. In our tradition, skillful means compassion. And emptiness, the nature of wisdom, the nature of reality, is always hand in hand with compassion, bodhicitta. So emptiness, compassion, symbolized here, this is emptiness, this is compassion, this is skillful means, this is wisdom. They always held like this together, left hand, right hand, or like this. They're never apart. So the bell has that in one form, the emptiness and the dorje, the vajra, together. So just remember that the teachings on emptiness are not about the absence of something. Emptiness is dynamic. The empty nature is dynamic. And that's Longchenpa talks about this in a very vivid way, which I don't understand. So I'm very happy to be able to say just only a few words and not have to explain anything that Holy Longchenpa said. But the dynamism, Rinpoche has explained in this way. I asked him once, and literally I'm doing what they talk about I'm sitting at his knee, right, or listening to his words. And I said, well, if emptiness is the nature of reality, then surely karma is also empty, yes? And he said, no. Yes and no, basically. I don't remember the exact wording, but I said, what causes cause? I mean, what does cause mean if emptiness is the nature of reality? How does karma work? And he said, cause is it's the nature of emptiness to manifest when there is a cause present. That was his explanation. That's his explanation for what I said that Longchenpa said. The dynamic nature of emptiness is that in the presence of cause, emptiness manifests. That's powerful information for us because it's very easy, particularly at our stage, to reify emptiness as meaning nothingness. Don't do that. Instead, recognize the approach to emptiness as the approach to the ultimate wisdom that you're longing to be reunited with because you think you're separate from it. Think of it that way. Okay. There's a beautiful teaching in the Bardo instructions, the instructions for the intermediate state between death and rebirth, of the mother and child, that at the moment of death when the clear light shines, which happens for each of us, but unless we've practiced to develop the capacity to recognize, the individual, the being, will often just go unconscious at that moment. But those of us with training and practice, so that the recognizing capacity of mind is awake, can recognize that clear light, and immediately that is liberation. And sometimes, I'm not sure whether it's exact that moment or a moment succeeding it, but there is the recognition, which is the child luminosity, and the pure wisdom light, which is the mother luminosity, and the child recognizes the mother and runs joyfully into her lap. It's really precious. Was that accurate, Christina? Okay. Christina has studied those teachings also. So we both think of them as the roadmap for what happens after death. Very handy to have a roadmap. Death is quite confusing sometimes. You may not remember that, but... So... There's a description here of emptiness, or a pointing out instruction for emptiness, for wisdom, same thing that I want to share with you because I think it's beautiful. So the relationship of method and wisdom, always together, yes? So it's compassion and emptiness, always together. Geshe Jampa, whom I quoted before, Geshe Jampa Tekchok, wrote an outstanding commentary on the 37 Bodhisattva practices called Transforming Adversity to Courage, or something like that. Tekchok, Tegchok, and it's Geshe, that's his doctoral title, his academic title, and the first name is Jampa, Jampa. It's an outstanding, really exposition of the entire path through the lens of the 37 practices. So he says, so method, remember, is compassion, skillful means, and wisdom is ultimate nature of mind. He says, method is like having legs, and wisdom is like having eyes. With wisdom, we see the nature of reality. With legs, we can lead others to that seeing too. I want to read to you a paragraph from this book. I appreciate your bearing with me when I want to read something, because it's more precise sometimes than sitting and expounding. You have a chance to reflect on exactly how you want to say something, so that it comes as close as you're capable of bringing it to the meaning that you apprehend. So your patience, I appreciate it very much. That doesn't mean you shouldn't buy the book. Because there's more where this came from. It is not an illusion that we exist. Here we are together. But we urgently need to apprehend correctly the manner of our abiding in the realms of existence. Upon the evidence of sense-based perception, we attribute selfness, intrinsic existence, to that which is only appearance. Thus our world and our experience of it are like an illusion, not what they appear to be, and we are as if deluded, mistaking appearances for truth. Now, here's a sentence. When I read this, I think, huh? Okay. When delusion about the manner of existing disperses in understanding of the nature of being, we see and experience reality just as it is. I'll read it again. She's begging over there. When delusion about the manner of existing, that's our present conditioned mind that apprehends appearances as having selfness. Yes, that's our delusion. When delusion about the manner of existing disperses in understanding of the nature of being, that's when we have direct experience of the empty nature of mind and all phenomena. When delusion about the manner of existing disperses in understanding of the nature of being, we see and experience reality just as it is. I prayed for years, let me see it just as it is. I couldn't get anything fancier than that out of my mouth. I couldn't get anything inspiring and elevating. It was like, please help me just see reality just as it is. I just want to see it as it is. And so eventually I did. It was because I wanted it so much. That's the power of aspiration and prayer and devotion and faith. You have to ask for what you want. You have to know what it is you want, and you have to ask for it. And you have to want it as if your life depends on it. Actually, that's timid. Want it as if the lives of all beings depend upon it. That's more courageous. If you don't want it, not going to happen. Remember Rinpoche's words. You will realize the ultimate if your whole heart wants that. But you have to want it with your whole heart. Heart, mind, same. Another teaching of Geshe Jampa that I think is very important for us to hear is that, I've spoken about all the relative reality qualities of compassion and love and kindness and so on as being expressions of and reflections in this frame of existence of qualities, enlightenment qualities that are actually our true nature, that we already possess in seed form. And it's by exercising those qualities in this existence that we're in that we diminish the self-grasping that prevents us from seeing and realizing and bringing fully into expression and articulation the ultimate, the qualities of ultimate love, ultimate compassion, ultimate wisdom. We're not separate from them. We've never been separate from them. They are our true nature, but they're occluded. We have faulty eyesight. So our sweeping away of the occlusions is our practice of relative love and relative compassion, and even if I could use this funny term, relative wisdom. Even an intellectual understanding. This is this phrase from Geshe Jampa. He says, even before realizing emptiness, meaning the ultimate nature, our practice of love, compassion, and here's his phrase, is held by an echo of the ultimate. Even before realizing emptiness, our practice of love, compassion is held by an echo of the ultimate. As our self-grasping softens, so our love and compassion expand. Our compulsion to maintain the illusion of selfness weakens as we turn our thoughts, intentions, and attentions to others with care, friendliness, compassion, and love. Duality, fixation, and suffering dissolve in bodhicitta, empty of referent, naturally and universally radiant like the sun. Relative love reflects this in the selfless, tender, profoundly kind heart of parent for child, for example, or of lover for beloved, teacher for disciple, individual for the world. In such connections, there are moments when self-other duality evaporates, moments of union and communion. These are intimations of the emptiness nature inseparable from love. Though at times perhaps uncertain or anxious, once having heard of this ultimate openness that we call emptiness, listen carefully to this. Once having heard of this ultimate openness that we call emptiness, we will continue to be drawn to know it directly, because this is the truth of the nature of reality, of both existence and being, and truth magnetizes us. As magnet draws the iron filing, truth draws us. So it's a mutual longing. We're longing for truth, and truth is longing for us, if we can put it in that way, yes? And so if our longing is strong enough and true enough, and if it is motivated by great love for all beings and all of existence, it will magnetize. The same way emptiness, which is absolute, magnetizes. And then we attain that union that we know as ultimate wisdom. It is already within us as our potential. That's actually incorrect. It's not within us. We already are that potential. That's more precise. We already are that in potential. I have to read you some more, because I just really don't want to be extemporaneous about this part. Don't get caught, and I've addressed this earlier, but I want to say it again. Don't get caught in hoping to see emptiness and fearing you won't. Hope and fear walk between. Hope and fear walk between. Try it this way, try it that way. Yes, let's try and try until we realize directly that which is not found by effort, but to which effort clears the way, most especially our noble effort to not do that which we have always been doing. All our trying purifies and refines our mind, generating great merit for us, meaning an increase in love. That's what Rinpoche says merit means, love. And softening our grasp to illusion-like appearances. But it is not the trying that achieves the longed-for result. The trying is like polishing a lens, so we can see directly that which already is, that which we think we're looking for, but which in fact we are always already looking at, seeing without recognizing. The longed for awaits only the seeing. And now I have to give you a teaching from one of my first lamas. His sentence: by meditating upon emptiness, this is addressing again the union of shamatha and vipassana, calm abiding and special insight. By meditating upon emptiness in the state of complete tranquil abiding, the nothing to see will see that seeing. I have to read it again, I blew the last word. By meditating upon emptiness in the state of complete tranquil abiding, the nothing to see will see that seeing. By meditating upon emptiness in the state of complete tranquil abiding, the nothing to see will see that seeing. Just tuck that away somewhere. At some point, you're going to burst out laughing and say, oh, That's what he meant. It may just be an instant passing quickly, but you'll get a glimpse. And you'll say, that's what he meant. Jai Guru. Victory to the Guru. And once we have a direct glimpse, and a glimpse by definition is very ephemeral, it's very momentary, yes? A glimpse is, that's it. That's all you get, right? Some people only get one glimpse. Some people are able to stabilize what they've, that experience into a more stable ability to rest in the emptiness state. But be it glimpse or extended experience, direct experience, don't try to get that back. I've said this before. I think this is day 3 that I'm saying that. Don't try to get back any kind of meditative experience or any kind of experience of insight. Don't try to get it back. Live what it has shown you. And live it with skillful means, meaning compassion and love. Live what the experience has shown you. Otherwise, you're collecting meditative experiences, right? Holding on to that which has no substance. It has only the ability to penetrate your ignorance momentarily. So we need to stabilize the insight by continuing the practice, but the stabilization really comes through the living of the lesson that has been given. And in a personal way, my experience of that is I rely upon the truth of what I have seen rather than trying to recreate that for myself in an experience. The experience was the window opening, and I looked through and saw, and then I can leave the room. Got what I came for. Don't have to keep going back into the room. Pounding on the window, which seems then closed, Yes? Pick up your bed and walk. Trying to regain the experience or recreate it is grasping. Grasping is the main thing between us and direct insight into the nature of reality. Because all grasping is self-grasping. Okay? That completes the presentation of the material on the 6 paramitas, the 6 transcendent virtues, or the 6 noble attitudes, or the 6 perfection practices. So we have a half an hour left. This afternoon I could do the Guardians of the Gates rather quickly, it's not lengthy, or we could start them now and then have the afternoon quite open, or we could have some time for questions or discussion now before lunch and then do all the rest of the substantive work in the afternoon. Do you have a preference? Are there questions that you'd like to raise? So there's one question. Let me know if there are others. Does other people have considerations that you'd like to raise? I don't know if I have any here. Yeah, I have one here that is relevant to our work. So let's hear the question that is on the floor. Do you want to bring the mic? That'd be great. Thank you. And feel free to stand up, but people can hear better when they can see your face. At least I can. I can read your lips.
I just wanted to ask for clarification on the skillful means component.
I'm sorry, I can't hear.
I wanted to ask for clarification. Wait,
let me let her get the mic aligned. Say it again.
Can you hear me now? Okay. On the skillful means component.
Which verse are we?
Verse 30.
30, what we just did, okay.
Yes. We are using skillful means. Compassion is the skillful means to develop the wisdom.
Yes, but it's a funny word to talk about developing the wisdom. The wisdom requires no development whatsoever. It is already ultimate, absolute. What develops is our capacity to recognize it and realize it. Yeah. So there's just, in the language of this, there's just, that clarification I think is important. Remember I said at the beginning of talking about verse 30 that the prior 5 of the perfection practices are called relative reality practices because they rely on conceptualization, and they use concept to explain. But with wisdom, we are not using concept to explain, we're pointing to. That's why they're called pointing out instructions on recognizing true nature, because you can't describe the ultimate. No way. That's like putting wind in a corral. Not possible. You can't put a fence around the ultimate. So we point in the direction. It's almost, instead of pointing to, we also at an earlier stage are actually pointing towards. At least that's my experience. I'm pointing towards for myself and for others. It's the practice on the wisdom of emptiness, undertaken with the compassionate intent that we know as bodhicitta, that is wisdom and wisdom and skillful means together. Yes? Is that what you wanted to know?
Yes, very good.
Yes, okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Perfect question, huh?
Thank you.
Yeah, great. Another question that was left as a little note said, how does one go about taking formal refuge, meaning formal refuge in the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha? That is considered the doorway of becoming an actual Buddhist. One can be doing everything that we're talking about without ever taking the vows of becoming a Buddhist. But the taking of the refuge vows opens up so much support for our practice, for our intention. We're walking then consciously, intentionally, and with dedication, literally in what I referred to earlier as the radiant footsteps of those who've preceded us for centuries. Countless have also taken refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. The Buddha being the historical Buddha, also being the Guru, and also being absolute truth. The Dharma being the teachings of the Buddha, also all the commentaries on those who've achieved Buddhahood since Buddha Shakyamuni, and they are legion, and they continue today, and there are people attaining enlightenment as we speak. The Sangha, it can be referred to as the community of the noble ordained. That's the noble Sangha, those who've taken monastic vows. It can refer to the community of practitioners and students that one sits with. It can also be referred to as the Sangha of all sentient beings. Garchen Rinpoche also uses the word in the singular. Tara is a Sangha. So we could say, Claire also is a Sangha. A Sangha is an individual. And I've never heard that usage from anyone else, but he uses that. And also the Sangha can be understood as your own mind. Your own mind. Sometimes, like if you're in a long solitary retreat, for example, you can refer in your mind to the Sangha of all those points of reference that I've just mentioned, and yet your mind contains the whole thing. Your mind contains every cause of confusion and suffering. It contains the absolute remedy for each of those causes. Your mind contains the seed of complete enlightenment and the potential of proliferating confusion. So we could say the Sangha is ever present. We can rely upon the teachings as the Sangha. When we're alone and you're in your mountain solitude retreat, the teachings are that we can join hands with the teachings to liberate all beings. Yeah, join hands with the teachers. It's like the Sangha is really very, very vast in that way. And I myself many times have taken great strength from that sense of Sangha as being omnipresent. So when we take refuge in these are called the three jewels, Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. When we take refuge, there's a formal ceremony of ordination called the refuge ceremony, and the vows are presented out loud. The Lama has the vows to give us, and they're given out loud, and we repeat the vows, and we offer our hair to be cut in the. Is that just the Bodhisattva ceremony? I think the vow of ordination we.
Refuge is haircutting.
Yeah, and. There are people often say, well, what are the commitments? You know, what does it mean? What are you undertaking and committing to? But and Rinpoche always says the commitment is love. That's the essence of the commitment. Whatever the forms are that somebody tells you, the commitment is love, and the essence of all the commitments are love. And how does one go about that? One requests it from a qualified Lama. You request to be able to be given refuge. It's like you're saying to somebody who's holding the ultimate umbrella, oh, it's just storming out here, please give me shelter. Yeah, I need to be protected from causing harm, which causes me harm, karmically far into the future. It's saying, I know you have the power, the three jewels, the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, you have the power of ultimate protection, ultimate direction, and ultimate accomplishment. And so we take refuge to have that support. So you request it, and then it will be given. Maybe not in that moment, but you can make the arrangements. And we have an extraordinary, just unspeakably fortuitous blessing that Garchen Rinpoche has placed on the website of the Garchen Institute, a link for distance refuge. You can take refuge with Garchen Rinpoche electronically. If you're not able to be in his presence, if you want him to be your refuge Lama, that can happen. You just go to the website. Isn't that correct, Christina? Yeah. And it's the same as if he were in the room with you. He is in the room with you. No separation. Yes? So I don't know whose question that was, but but I think that's sufficient, yes? Christina, did you have some things you wanted to mention before we ended this session? bring your mic with you? I rely so much on my friend Christina for some of the details because sometimes the mind goes a bit like out like this and then, oops, can't remember the detail.
Actually, there's a question online.
Oh, yeah?
From someone who's asking.
Yeah, we can't hear you. I can't hear you.
You can't hear me?
Now I can, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The question online is, why is it said, quote, what sees, unquote, instead of, quote, who sees, unquote?
I love that question, don't you? Yeah, that's a great question. It doesn't matter. You can do either. There's a little bit more, there's a peril in either direction. The peril for who sees is you personalize. Yeah. The peril for what sees is that you reify. Yeah. So, either way you're imperiled. But what you're really asking is what Pavan Sharab said. Hold on, I'll say it again. The nothing to see will see that seeing. So, I can say something more about this, but you know what I would really like would be for each of you to have that question really available to you at all times. And particularly in your practice. When there's a moment of ignorance suddenly crashing through your good intentions, and you're going blah, 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 and thoughts of hatred and, are arising, and your recriminations, and you're thinking about the things your mother told you, and makes you really angry even still because you were an adolescent then and you're still an adolescent. Whatever. Whatever. What sees that? When you're in your bed of pain, because we have physical bodies, we will sometime be in our bed of pain. What sees that? When we're just overwhelmed by negativity, and we are really good-hearted people, we are bodhisattvas, we can still be sometimes overwhelmed by our negativity. Sometimes our negativity is stirred up like a hornet's nest by our reaction to what we perceive as the negativity of others. So then you're really in the soup, So in that case, you're flailing around, turnips and, what did he say, rutabagas, and the heat's going up because you're practicing, and that increases the heat. It quickens. Practice quickens. Teachings quicken. Personal instruction from the Lama quickens. Practice quickens. Bodhicitta quickens. And that generates heat. Well, I have no idea where I was going. I got caught in the image there. So you're really out of control. You're just a mess. And if there's anybody in the room who can't identify with that state of mind description, I'd think, let's change places. You come sit here. But we're all a mess sometimes. We lose it. Even with our beautiful, pristine intention and our great love that we experience. Sometimes we really experience the great love, not the limited personal love. Sometimes we really do experience that objective loving. But sometimes we're just a mess. What sees that? I have a great idea. Somebody who likes to do calligraphy or who has a good knows how to paint with a small brush and good lettering, get some beautiful smooth pebbles, like river stones, but small, like that you can have in your pocket, and it just says on it, what sees this? What sees that? And then, oh yeah, the touchstone. I look forward to seeing those in the bookstore when you get it finished. Question?
Can you say a few more words about what it means not to interfere in the karma of others?
I wish. I really have to hear more from him. I said in response to his saying that, I said, but isn't that the job description of a bodhisattva? And he said something that seemed confirmatory of that. I'm not going to say the exact words, but there are times when I think there are times when you are witness to the ignorance or suffering and sometimes dangerous levels of suffering of another, and you have a question about intervene or not intervene. You might make a mistake in what decision you come to about that. Don't be afraid of making mistakes. Be afraid of not loving. If you're going to be afraid of anything, be afraid of not loving. We are going to make mistakes in judgment and action. We are going to. When you can directly apply a bandage to an open wound, please do that. In some cases, you might choose to put on your nitrile gloves first. You please do that if you need to. But when you can directly alleviate someone's pain or sorrow or dangerous negativity, if you have the skillful means of relative reality as well as the compassion skillful means, use that. Use that for the benefit of others. And you will never see the full extent of the suffering of samsaric beings. So there's a great preponderance of confusion and ignorance and suffering that you'll never have any ability to intervene indirectly. But your aspirations and your supplications and your beseeching of the power to be of benefit is powerful intervention in and of itself. There's a supplication that Rinpoche made at one point that I have pinned to the tanka of the Bhava Chakra that I have in my home. The wheel of existence, the 6 realms of samsaric existence in which the kinds of suffering are depicted, and I placed that there so I would always know where to find it. I can't remember the exact words, but it's something like this. You, addressing the sublime ones, you who know what the suffering of the 6 realms are like, when I swiftly go to bring rescue and You who know the suffering of what the suffering of the three elements are like, when I swiftly go for the benefit, to benefit sentient beings, sublime ones, please bestow your ability and might. If you want the exact wording, I can provide it. Please sign up on the email list so that I can reach you. If you want me to be able to reach you in the relative as well as mind to mind. Yes? And I'd be happy to send that to you. And I want to be sure you have my contact information before we end. So if somebody will please remind me to provide that to you, I'll just give it to you, verbally, or somebody can write it down and then pass it around so everybody has it. I want you to be able to reach me. Okay. So those words suggest let's intervene when we can, but let's ask for the ability and the power, the might. Let's ask for the help of the all-seeing and the all-knowing. So let's ask for both the skillful means and the wisdom mind of the ultimate. Yes? And I make so many mistakes in this way. I make so many errors. Not just errors of judgment and discernment, but errors of action. So I just want to say that to you. I mean, I really make a lot of errors because I'm out there. And I put myself out there. I'm an intervener by character, and for me, it's a great challenge and point of development to learn the not doing element of intervention, to acknowledge that sometimes my intervening is really ego-motivated, or is just the tendency to do in reaction to something that needs something, the tendency to do. But sometimes the power is greater in standing steady in a state of complete love and bodhicitta, recognizing the emptiness of the created appearances, when the doing that you would be able to offer, in fact, could make things worse immediately and quickly and irreversibly, or could just muck up the situation. Right? I've had some very striking experiences of that kind. I used to work in a prison, and at one point, one of the inmates requested to be alone with me for discussion of something in the context of a meeting. And I said, I was asked subtly by a gesture, was I safe? And I said yes, and I wasn't safe. It wasn't a safe situation. I was afraid to say no because I thought I'd look like a wimp. And the correction guards are quick to spot a wimp on the staff. Prison culture is a very rich learning environment for samsaric explorations. So it was really a critical crisis occurred. And if I had just been honest, when it happened, I could have said, I don't know. Or I could have, when the director, what do we call him? The prison warden, went like this, are you safe? I could have gone. And it would never have happened. And I wouldn't have lost any prestige. Nobody would have been safe in that situation, as it turned out. So it's subtle. The discerning is subtle, isn't it? Looking at motivation, looking at potential, looking at capacity. It's just a glance within and you see. But if you don't take the glance within, you're kind of, okay. You know what? I am so glad I'm so old that I have these experiences of my lifetime that I can share with you because they're very pertinent, aren't they? And I'm so glad that I've made so many mistakes and that I'm a person who has so many faults because I can use them for you and for others. If I didn't have so many faults, I would probably be very poor at explicating the path of the Bodhisattva. Seriously. Does that make sense to you? Yeah. I mean, what if I had always from childhood been just a really sweet-natured, loving, compassionate, selfless person? I wouldn't have much to say. And by the volume of my production of words, you can get some sense of how I've had to work. Right? And I'm not finished speaking. So if there's a fault you're interested in that you think might be one of yours, I might be able to offer some perspective on that fault because it's probably mine too. And I praise them and love them, every single one. Really, I love my faults because they allow me to be permeable. I am very permeable. That's a good thing. It wasn't when I was younger, but it is now. So if you have faults, notice the generosity in that statement. If you have faults, use them for the benefit of others. And you'll find, if you have that intention about your faults, you'll find ways to use them for the benefit of others. Don't waste anything. Recycle. Recycle your selfishness and be able to convey to someone else the beauty of generosity. Yeah? Because you've learned it. You had to learn it. Recycle your cowardice and convey to others how increasing in compassion has increased you in courage. Don't waste anything. It's all good. By the way, the prayer of Samantabhadra, the prayer of Kuntuzampo, that we recited on the porch with the beautiful moon, those instructions, that prayer contains precise instructions for working directly with the afflictive emotions and conflictual thoughts, with confusion, aggression, passion, fear, doubt, all of it, in the awareness of the absolute and relative, one ground, two paths. It's an articulation that is precise, exact, and complete of the method of the path. Use it that way. It's not just to recite, it's to use as your textbook for how to do the path, how to work with the mind. Would you like to come back after lunch for one more session? Okay, me too. Okay, good. Thank you so very much. You're really so beautiful, and so your attention is so pristine. It's just a pleasure to sit with you. Whether we're sitting, doing the M meditation thing, or whether we're sitting in doing the T teaching thing, we're sitting. We're just being with each other. We're just being. Here we are. This is just a moment. The causes of our being together came together with the conditions, and this arose. Yamaho. Enjoy your lunch.